Welcome to the Beyond Divorce Embracing Change podcast. My name is Michael Flores, and I will be your host while we explore the complex journey of divorce with empathy, insight, and practical knowledge. Whether you're contemplating separation, in a divorce, or looking for support post-divorce, our episodes provide expert guidance, stories, and strategies to help you through every step of the process. We are actual therapists, helping clients who sit on our couches every day through their difficulties of divorce. You are not alone. Join us as we delve in and find solutions that give you hope again. We're glad you're here.
This podcast is not intended to replace legal or personal help. This podcast is for informational purposes only.
Well, welcome everyone to this podcast. Collaborative Conversations with Your Co-Parent is the title of this particular podcast. I'm really excited about this topic. This is a very common situation that comes up when we have marital couples that come in for marriage counseling. They come in and talk about communication. When we have co-parents that come in, they talk about communication. So we find this common thread of communication being kind of the key resource of what's missing from really problem solving or solution building, as we call it at Brighter Possibilities. So we want to talk with you about collaborative conversations, how to create conversations that more have a collaborative feel and bring things out of a conversation so that you guys can really achieve more solutions. So this is going to be really helpful. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. We're going to do something different today. Dr. Robinson is joining me in this, and I think he is the best person to do this with me, with his work with a lot of adults and just his history of working with adults and families. And Dr. Robinson is going to kind of take more of the moderator role in this and really hopefully really dig into me to get the information out of me to you. So I really appreciate Dr. Robinson for being here again. Thank you. And thank you for doing that. Thank you for moderating.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. I like this role a little bit because not only does it give us an opportunity to collaborate on thoughts and ideas, but it also gives me an opportunity to unpack and uncover what I may not know or some things that I may know that I might be able to add to what I do already. Right?
That's it.
So you ready to get into it?
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to do this for a while. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about collaborative conversations with your co-parent. I think one of the things that our audience might be able to glean from is we can kind of define or describe or let them know what is collaboration. Because I think sometimes when I'm seeing clients, one of the things that I notice is that they don't know what collaboration is. They think it might be arguing, or they're afraid that they're going to be losing power in the collaboration.
Yes, I'm glad you said it the way you said it. Is typically when we're having uncollaborative conversations, it's because either one, we're not feeling understood. We feel like we're giving something up. We're losing some type of power. That's the uncollaborative. The collaborative is when you have the opposite. You feel validated. You feel heard. You may not be agreed with, but you feel heard and you feel validated. And when both parties get a turn, because one of the things that we noticed when we do couples counseling, Jacobie, when you and I are doing couples counseling or we're doing counseling with co-parents, that is the biggest issue. Is I hear them interrupt each other so much, and they'll say, "Can you let me speak?" And I think what they should be saying is, "Would you be willing to try to understand?" Rather than, "Can you let me speak?" Because if you just let me speak, I may be going right over your head. You may not even care.
Right.
But would you be willing to understand? Because if they say, "No, I'm not willing to understand," then what are we talking about?
Right. And that's a very powerful statement, because a lot of times what I will hear is, "It's my turn now. I'm talking now." Right.
Yeah, so it's like turning the seesaw, just back and forth and back and forth, but nothing's getting done.
And you're not going anywhere.
So there's your definition of collaboration is we're getting to a place where we can create some movement.
Absolutely.
But conversations have to have the flavor for both parties to feel like there's a shift.
You know, as you say that, the thing that comes to my mind is if we're in a car ride together and we're going somewhere, there can only be one driver at a time.
Hold on. I did defend. Not what was it? The driving for my license. You can get my ID, my license.
Yeah,
They had a
driver's ed.
break.
Driver ed school.
Driver's ed.
Yeah. Well, see, this is where the challenge comes in, is that am I willing to be a participant in this process?
Mm-hmm.
And how am I seeing this? Is this one of those things where you're driving the bus or you're driving the car and I just got to ride with you on this as a co-parent? What does that really look like?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that goes into step one, which is monitoring yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing where you are in that and being honest about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm sitting in a room with someone and trying to have a collaborative conversation and that person is not willing to listen to me, they're not interested, and we're not talking. What are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I might not just stop the conversation. I'm probably going to become more questionative, right? Like more like, hey, I'm wondering what we could do so that we can have this type of conversation. Or I really want to make sure that you hear this. What do you need from me so that I can tell you about what's going on? Because you may not want to hear it, but I can ask questions like that. I don't know if there's a lot. I'm going to go ahead and just tell his name. I love this guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chris Voss.
Yes.
Okay. Chris Voss was a former, I believe it was FBI negotiator. Got a phenomenal book. I'm going to kick his book out there for him. Never Split the Difference. Phenomenal book. But he's talking about collaborative conversations. And he has this comment he makes, and he calls them calibrated questions.
Mm.
And I love that term because it's basically a question you ask on purpose, right? Because it's trying to guide you somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Collaborated questions, in my opinion, and Chris may say this too, but in my opinion, start with what and how.
Yeah.
Because what and how are solution driven. And when you are monitoring yourself, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, am I willing to hear the other side? Am I willing to agree with the idea that I could be wrong? Right? Because that's the thing. If you both come at it like you're both right, then what are we talking about? You're both right. You can leave. There's your therapy.
Right.
Hey, you both don't seem to agree, but you're both not willing to be wrong.
Absolutely.
So since you're both right, I guess you don't need me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I've
never said that, but man, sometimes I feel it.
Yeah. Good. This is the thing. Like, so many things are coming to my mind right now. I'm afraid we're going to get off topic, but I got to say this, right?
All right. Hit it.
This is the thing. So when I am working with couples who are working to co-parent, they're not really couples, so they're not identifying themselves as couples.
Right.
But I'm working with parents who are not together, but they're trying to co-parent. One of the things that I sense in the room is that they are afraid of getting along.
I want to hear more about that.
Right. I think that they're afraid of getting along because if they discover that they can get along, then they start questioning, why didn't it work?
Oh, sure. And that's even more powerful in the fact that if one party didn't want the divorce, makes sense. I think that creeps in more. If both parties wanted the divorce, I don't know if that plays in as much. I mean, this is a guess.
Yeah. No, and it's not with every situation.
Sure.
It's just in some.
Right.
In some scenarios where we're struggling to co-parent, and as a therapist, I might explore with each one in a unique way of trying to ask them the question of what's going on with you that you can contribute to the co-parenting process, or what's going on with you that's in the way of the co-parenting.
Correct. And that's part of the co-parenting piece is first starting with monitoring yourself. So let me give an example to the listeners. So listeners are probably listening in and going, but what if my other parent isn't interested in what I had to say? What if the other parent's not interested? I'm still going to teach these guys.
Right.
Like, there's still a way to move things forward, even when you're getting nothing back. You can have the worst person coming back at you, but I'm gonna go through some steps here in a minute with them. Really important things to consider. Keep it simple to move them, but you got to monitor yourself. If you want to get to collaborative, if you want to get movement, start with you.
Right.
Okay. So step one, and you're hitting on that, which is start with yourself. And if you know that you're not movable right now, that's where you need to check yourself and go, what do I need to work on in me so that I become a place to be flexible? I use this analogy with kids. If a tree limbs, if the limbs on the tree could not move, right? They can't wiggle when the wind blows. What's going to happen to the limb?
It's going to snap.
It's going to snap.
Right.
And these people want to snap.
Right.
They snap off on each other, right? They're snapping because they're not flexible.
Right.
And so to be flexible, you have to be movable.
Right.
And being movable means you have to consider the idea you could be wrong. One of the greatest answers I gave to a question once was, Mr. Flores, I was in a deposition, Mr. Flores, could you be wrong? Sure. I don't think they expected me to say that.
Right.
And so they're asking me about confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you know what that is. We get trained in it.
Right.
Dr. Ruzgita said it very clearly to us when I was training. She said, flirt with your assumptions, don't marry them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And a lot of us in this, in co-parenting specifically, in talking about having collaborative conversations with their co-parent, they are marrying their assumptions about the other person,
right,
flirting with them. To flirt with them means you have questions. To marry them means you have statements.
You know, but before you could, that's great.
Oh, it's okay. Go ahead.
Because before you can flirt with the assumption, you have to acknowledge the assumption.
That's monitoring self. You got it. That goes right into it.
Yeah.
First, you got to know what you're assuming to be true.
And so that's one of the things that I think that many co-parents struggle to recognize is that they make assumptions. We all make assumptions. And for some reason, we see making assumptions as a bad thing because of that, that saying that goes to assume is to make a,
ASS of you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
But
I think we're talking to adults here,
yeah.
Dr. Robinson. I mean, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. But this is the thing, right? Assuming is okay.
Sure.
Right. The problem is when we don't acknowledge our assumptions because our assumptions tell us something about us.
Do you suppose it's acknowledging the assumption or making the assumption true?
Well, I think that's part of it, right? Yeah. What would you say? What would you say to that? Is it an issue of acknowledging assumption, or is it an issue of embracing and making it true? Or
let's talk about human nature for a second in any situation. And I want this to kind of guide us into the second piece of this.
Right.
Human nature for us is when we don't have all the information, we're going to make things mean things.
Yeah.
We put meaning on stuff. We judge behavior. So if we see a certain behavior, we're going to make that behavior mean something.
Yeah.
And then we're going to base that to be true.
Yeah.
And then this goes back into confirmation bias. Then what ends up happening is we assume something to be true.
Right.
We then look for things to make what we assume to be true so that we can call it truth.
Right.
Does that make sense? And so I think that's where the issue is with assumptions.
Yeah.
I don't think they're bad or wrong.
Right.
Flirt with them.
Absolutely.
What you say is, I feel, and this is going to go back into some language.
Yeah.
I call it 5 sense language. I think Chris Voss calls it something else, but I call it 5 sense language. You go hear, what I feel, what I think, feels like, sounds like, looks like, sounds like, whatever.
Smells like, tastes like.
I've never heard a collaborative conversation with co-parents saying it smells like.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it won't happen. But I've heard it sounds like, feels like, looks like, seems like.
Yeah.
It takes the essence of you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of saying you're alienating.
Yeah.
It feels like you're alienating me from this situation.
Yeah.
That comes off the ears for them to hear it a little differently. But I'm going to talk about how to do that in a second.
Yeah. I want to ask you something.
Okay.
For the sake of the audience, as we try to move to the next segment of this conversation, is when you're talking about monitoring myself, if I'm going to monitor myself in this co-parenting dynamic, what do you say to that person who's listening to the podcast right now that says, what do I need to look for? And how do I do that?
A great question. Because see, in my brain, I'm already thinking, I already know what to look for you, but they may not. What you look for is the assumptions you hold to be extremely true and typically about the past. So any unresolved issues you have with your co-parent, those are the ones you're flirting with.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people are doing is making the past true.
Sure.
And then trying to make a future built off a past they have already assumed to be true.
Gotcha.
So how do they monitor that? They go, well, what have I assumed to be true in the past that's unresolved?
Yeah.
It's still a problem for us.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you get divorced because you weren't able to reconcile that problem.
Absolutely.
But that problem can still be a holdup for you personally when it comes to your ability to co-collaborate with your co-parent.
Yeah.
So that's part of monitoring yourself. What's still unresolved?
Yeah.
And then what assumptions do I hold to be true about them?
Yeah. And
that's what I would do.
And I'm wondering how a person might be able to do that in the context of these 5 senses that you talked about.
Right.
Like the assumptions that I'm making because of what it sounds like, the assumption I'm making because of what it looks like.
Right. And what I mean by that is how you say it, not what it, so you can say to yourself, it feels this way.
Right.
But you're not going to say it is that way.
Yeah.
You're going to say to them, it feels like, looks like. That's going to be part of the collaborative conversation. Let me jump into that.
Yeah.
So the second piece of this, so step 1, monitoring yourself, asking yourself the questions of what assumptions you hold to be true. Step 2, learning how to respond versus react. You got it. You were with me.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I should let you say it.
Yeah. I can still say it.
You can say it. Go ahead, say it again.
Yeah, it's probably a better idea to learn how to respond instead of react.
Correct.
Help listeners understand what the difference is,
Sure.
Michael, between responding versus reacting.
Reacting comes from more of an emotional place.
Yeah.
And to say that human beings aren't emotional would be ludicrous. That would be ridiculous, because we are emotional beings. We're driven by emotion.
Sure.
Mothers Against Drunk Driving started because a mother lost her kid from a drunk driver, didn't agree with the laws. She had a feeling, I don't want this to happen to other people.
Yeah.
And it drove her to creating this wonderful program to protect and have stricter laws on drunk driving, which I'm not mad at, but it was driven by an emotion.
Yeah.
But what was amazing is she might have started with a reaction, but she became a responder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why it took off. And that's all an assumption, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the difference between the two is a response is logical. A reaction is emotional. It's the best way to keep the two. If you find that you're in a high emotional state, you're more likely to react.
Yeah.
Now, what's funny, and I'm going to give just a little tidbit here. I know for a fact that attorneys are trained to get the witness to become emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they get a witness to become emotional, what are they going to do?
They're going to react instead
Correct.
of respond.
And if I get them to react, you're going to see some underpinnings of who they're trying to create in the courtroom to really leverage the case, which is really sad because they can be really big bullies.
Yeah.
And just to get a rise out of you.
Yeah. So just to unpack this a little bit, help our listeners understand what reacting looks like.
Sure.
Just what responding looks like using the same scenario.
Typically what I've learned with people who are reacting, they're really black and white.
Okay.
And so what they'll do is they'll go, you never this, or you always this, or that's typically a reaction. And it's always projected out. It's always a them thing. Make sense? A response is coming from more of an internal place.
Sure.
It's easier to say things like, it feels this way to me, or I've noticed this. Remember when back in, and they don't really work very well in my opinion, but remember when therapists used to teach I statements?
Yeah.
The idea of that was to get people to respond, not react, but
Right.
like, I feel.
When you.
Yeah, that's what they do. I feel when you.
Yeah.
So there's no I statement.
And this is what I would like.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
I remember that whole thing. And I, not to make fun of it, I believe that people just weren't using it the way it was designed.
Yeah.
But it started with coming from a place of responding,
Right.
which is I feel, not UX. So reactions typically are outward,
Yeah.
and responses are typically coming from a place of inward.
So would you say then that responding has more to do with self-reflection?
100%. This is why monitor self is step one. See how we put it in order?
I see that.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Puzzle. Yeah,
Absolutely.
start with self. That way you can stay in a state of responding.
Absolutely.
Know you first, right? It's not about them. It's never about them.
So this kind of puts us into step 3, which is how do we
Oh, yeah.
respond instead of react?
Great. So let's start with a couple things.
Yeah.
One of the things parents have trouble with is when the other parent is over asking, I want more time, or I need more of this, or I don't want to say yes to that, but then I look like a bad person, or I don't want to say no, or I need to say no. And they get stuck on how to respond just with those simple things.
Sure.
Yes, no, whatever. So I'm going to teach the listeners how to really monitor that.
Yeah.
There's only 3 answers.
Okay.
There's not 2. There's 3. There's yes, there's no, and there's yes if. The majority of collaborative conversations in co-parents should end with yes if. Now I'll explain why that is. Start with your yeses and nos. When you say yes to something, it should always be a hell yes. What I mean by that is, if it's a hell yes, I don't need any more conversation. You asked, I'm like, hell yeah, let's do that, right? If a guy comes in and he goes, you want $100?
Yep.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it and go, yes, if, right, or no. But it's either hell yes or it's hell no.
Yeah.
This is why most answers end with yes, if.
Yeah.
Okay, so I only say no when I know for a fact. If I say, hey, I want to take our kid on a ride on a motorcycle. The kid's 4 years old. I don't have a helmet.
Sure.
There's no yes if there.
Right.
It's no. He's not going without a helmet, right? There's a safety concern or whatever there.
Or there is a yes if he has a helmet.
And there's my if. Now watch why this works. I like why you did that.
Yeah.
The reason yes if works better is if gets to build in the boundaries.
Right.
A lot of issues with co-parents is really that. They don't agree on the lines.
Right.
So I'm going to use a perfect example. I had a phone call from a very dear friend of mine who calls me on the phone and says, I have an issue with my co-parent. So what's up? Said, my kid's got a party coming up and it's on my weekend. So this particular friend of mine, he has a 1st, 3rd, 5th schedule. Mom primarily has the kid, and it's on his particular weekend. It's like a 3rd weekend of the month. And it's on a Thursday. The mom calls and says, my cousin's kid is having a birthday party, and I want to bring our son to that birthday party. And so dad says, so my friend who's the father, he says, before I answer that question, let me think about it and call you back. Calls me. Pissed off. She's calling me on a Thursday and this party's on a Saturday, and you know, she knows it's my time and how much I value that. I don't know, she will never stop. I can't do this. And he's so frustrated. And so the first thing I asked him is, I said, let me ask you a question real quick. It feels like you're frustrated about the fact that she asked you so late. Yeah, man, I just don't know. So I'm validating him just with that statement. He could have told me I was wrong. He could have corrected me. Yeah, but I validated. Feels like you're upset about this. And he goes, yes, I am, man. She doesn't need to, she knows. And I said, can I just stop you for a second and say this? What would it mean to your son to go to this birthday party? He said, well, yeah, he'd have a good time. He started kind of taking the air out of the balloon, right? He said, yeah, he'd like it. He would enjoy going. And I said, okay, is there any obligations that you have this weekend that would interfere with him going to that party, absent mom asking such late notice? He said, no. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Are you willing to take him to the party or pick him up? He goes, no, I don't want to. It's not my situation. I don't want to have to. I said, great. You've answered my question. You're yes, if now. Yes, my son should go to the party if. So I said, answer's easy, man. You call her back and you say, yes, he can go to the birthday party on Saturday if you can pick him up and drop him off.
Yes.
If she says, I can't do that, I can pick him up, but I can't drop him off, who's saying no?
Right.
You or them.
Yeah.
You gave them a way to accomplish it.
Yeah.
See how yes, if works? It makes it collaborative.
So is it a therapist thing that we all have friends who could be our clients? Is that?
Hey, man, I think the beauty salon gets people that come in there doing the same thing. You think we should leave our business cards at the beauty salon?
We probably should. I don't know. Barbershop
talk.
Come on,
that's
now.
what they called it.
You're right. You know, that would be fun. Okay, side note. We should do our podcast in a barbershop one day.
Oh, man. You know, we probably could, in all honesty, as long as we don't have clients walking in there.
Well, you know.
I don't know clients would walk into our barbershop. I've never seen any of mine.
And maybe just have a few of the barbers or a couple of clients that they
vet. Hair in the back?
Yeah, well, you know, not really, but, you know, sitting at the table talking about this stuff, right? But anyway, let's get back on track here. But this is the thing, like, to your point, like, I similarly have had a friend who reached out to me about his co-parent situation, in that it was not his weekend.
Right.
And he's always open to being able to help out whenever, right? And he was in between jobs, had been in between jobs at one point, but now has this new opportunity for a job. So mom reached out, hey, I need some help. And he was like, absolutely. But I'm going to need you to come pick him up when you're done. He can stay at my house. She was like, no, I need you to pick him up and take him home. Well, that's, you know, it's like, I can't do that.
Right.
You know, I can pick him up and you can come get him when you're done. Right?
Yes, I can, if.
Yes. Yeah. It's that yes, if thing. And so, and this is where the collaboration often breaks down.
Correct.
Because of the lack of flexibility.
Well, and that's the whole point of the tree example I used. And I don't remember if I did it in this conversation or a different one, but in this conversation in particular, I was talking about being able to be movable. Yes, if creates movement. It allows for movement.
Yeah.
Yes, if you can pick, yes, I can do that if you can give me an additional day that I'm giving up.
Yeah.
No, I can't give you an additional day. Well, then I guess it's no.
Yeah.
You didn't say no, they did it.
They did it.
Yes, if.
Yeah.
If they're asking something of you, you can say yes, if.
Yeah.
And you just build in all your boundary lines.
Because I get the sense that oftentimes in that process, there is a hesitation because of a lack of trust, right? So let's go back and use your scenario.
Sure.
From the very beginning of, you offer me $100. In my mind, all I see is the $100. Yes, I'll take it.
Of course.
But because of past experiences, Why are you offering me $100?
I don't trust the person handing me the 100. So now I want to know why.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So you might say, can you help me understand why you're offering me $100?
Mm-hmm.
That becomes the question. Remember, you're flirting with the assumption.
Yeah.
Well, you're offering me $100. That looks nice, but I got some up that sleeve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the only way you find out what's in that sleeve is you have to ask questions. You know why kids learn so much so fast?
Because they're curious. Kids are very curious.
That's the formula.
Yeah.
Stay curious, not judgmental.
Absolutely.
So you want to do the difference between reaction?
Yeah.
You want to go back to reaction and responding? Responders are curious.
Absolutely.
So if I'm saying that, what am I saying about reactors? Responders are curious. What are reactors?
Reactors are judgmental.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Because you're judgmental because it's about you. It's your own fears. It's your own stuff creeping up. That's why monitoring yourself is first.
Yeah.
See, we're back to it. See the line. Let's get to the third part, though. Let's talk about a method. So we have yes. You say yes when it's hell yes. You say no when it's hell no. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't just say yes and no just because you're like, I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
Those are your yes ifs.
Right.
You need to work through that. And if you're still not certain, you should be curious and ask some questions.
Right.
Okay. Get some information.
Can we throw this out there for the pessimist?
Bring it.
Can we say yes, no, yes if, and no unless?
If you just find it that you gotta say no, which in my opinion is never a collaborative way to do it. But when people hear no, they hear never. That's the problem.
Yeah.
When people hear no, they hear never.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. Your son comes to you, your child, says, can I play my video game? You say no. They throw the biggest fit because to them, it's like, you never let me play my game.
Mm-hmm.
You're not saying never. You're basically saying not right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the no is.
Yeah.
Or next opportunity, I guess. But the whole point is the no, if you're the type of person that wants to go with, and I'm going to show you what a no-oriented question should sound like. And this is a Chris Voss method, by the way. But when you're going to say no, unless, to me, that's more of a, I'm not willing to work with you unless you meet these demands.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I don't think it's collaborative. That's why I like yes, if better than no unless. Make sense? If people want to try no unless, try it out. Let me know how it works out for you. But when it doesn't work out for you, use yes, if.
Okay. Sure. I got you.
No. I'm glad you asked for the pessimist, but this would be my response.
Yeah,
if you want to know what I'm like in therapy, I'm going to look at you and go, flirt with the assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Try that no unless and see how it goes for you.
Yeah.
And in the event it doesn't work, would you just try mine?
Yeah.
And they usually go, sure.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come back and go, which one's working for you?
Are you open to trying mine?
Am I?
Yeah.
No, because mine works.
Yeah.
Did you want my honest answer? It's not a hell no.
No.
Mine works. I'm not changing it.
Well, so
in the event it doesn't work, yes.
So let me be clear.
If it doesn't work,
let me be clear. I'm not on board with the no unless, but I'm thinking about clients who struggle and hesitate to say yes in any framework with their co-parent.
So,
and I'm wondering if this is a step for them that
maybe I'll answer it for me.
Yeah.
I'm willing to say no unless.
Yes.
Is if yes if
doesn't
work. So yes, if yes if doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm willing to try no unless.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes if it doesn't work. See, I'm still using mine. Now I know mine works. Okay.
All right.
Thank you for testing it.
All right. No. So let's, by way of recap here.
Okay.
We've kind of identified the idea of what collaborative conversations are. It's about validating a person's response, making or a person's thoughts, ideas, their feelings. And we want to validate them. People want to understand that they are having the opportunity of being heard and understood. Right. And so in this process, step one is to monitor ourselves. We're trying to make sure that we're giving the opportunity for the other person to be heard. Right. And that we're giving them an opportunity, giving myself an opportunity to validate what they're saying. Right. And then step two is responding instead of reacting.
Correct.
Being curious instead of being judgmental.
Oh, don't you always have a choice?
Yeah.
I can be curious or I can judge.
Yeah.
And I know that curiosity leads to something. This is why children learn so much.
Absolutely.
So let me do this. Thank you for recapping that. This is the last piece. There is a method to this. And I have actually taught this. I have taught this specifically to parents, even to parents that say, I can't get anything out of my other parents.
Sure.
Like they just have blocked me. And we're supposed to talk on this app, on OFW, app close, all these different methods that they give people to communicate. But here's the amazing thing. It's 4 steps. And I did it as a tester. I knew it worked because I actually do it in my own conversations. But I offered it as a tester for them, and I got some really cool feedback. But I'm going to give you the steps. They're really simple. Step 1 is gratitude. Okay? So what does that sound like? That's you finding something you appreciate about whatever the message is you got. You could get the meanest, most heinous message, but you want to start with something you're appreciative of. Thank you for reaching out to me. Thanks for letting me know how you're feeling. It could be that simple. You may not agree with how they feel, but you can thank them for letting you know or something. Okay. Step 2 is a value statement. The value statement is really for validity. It's to validate them, and it's the 5 sense language. So you go, thank you so much for reaching out to me. It feels like this conversation has really been on your mind, and it's time to get a solution. Or it feels like you're really upset with me about the outcome of this situation. It seems like you don't agree with my point of view. Something like that. Really that simple. Because it gives them room to say you're wrong. It gives them room to say you're right. They don't feel attacked by a statement that says it feels like, it seems like, it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay? But it's validating their point. They're getting an opportunity to correct you or tell you you're right on the money. The next one, so you're doing all this in a message. You're going to state where you agree with them. You're going to find something in the message where you might agree with. I agree with you. This sucks. I agree this is hard. I agree that I'm not hearing you. I'm not even willing to look at it from your perspective. You can even say that.
Is that part of the value statement, or is that?
No, this is step 3. This is where you agree.
Okay.
So it goes gratitude, value statement, 5 sense language, where you agree, and then the last one is your ask. When you're going to ask for something at the end, you want to use a no-oriented question. This is all Chris Voss, by the way, this 4th one. The no-oriented question is, most people are more likely to say no than yes. So you might say something like, would you be opposed?
Okay.
Jacobie, would you be opposed to being our moderator today?
No.
See, you get to say no, but it still fulfills what I wanted.
Absolutely. You know that's what I was doing earlier when I asked you, would you be opposed?
And then I said I wouldn't be. If didn't work.
Yeah.
So yes, if doesn't work, then I wouldn't be opposed.
This has been...
It is fun. Oh, I'm telling you.
This has
language
been fun.
matters, right?
Absolutely.
So no oriented questions sound like, would you be opposed? Would you be against?
Yeah.
Right? Are you against? Are you opposed? It's a little bit more direct. I like would you be? But are you? Cold callers learn this. Hey, do you have a 5 minutes I can borrow every time to talk about some vacuum cleaners and how I can save you money?
No.
Would you be opposed to saving some money?
No.
Cool. I just need 5 minutes of your time to talk about some vacuum cleaners. Boom. I'm right into it. You already said no. You've already agreed to my ability to discuss it with you.
I should have said no unless.
You had the opportunity, but you missed it.
I missed it.
There's your no unless. It works with no or any questions, doesn't it? So if it happens to you, you can use your no unless. So let's do this. I'm going to go over this response that I've seen where it uses all 4 of these steps.
Okay.
So people can kind of have a little flavor. What would this really sound like in a real conversation? Give me 2 seconds here. Let me get into that. So this would say something like this. I appreciate the support you provided with counseling. There's your gratitude statement.
Gotcha.
That's the response.
Yeah.
I appreciate the support you provided with the counseling. Value statement. Given the current situation and challenges between us, it seems like I'm going to need your help.
Okay. All right.
Okay. That's number 2. Watch number 3. I agree this will not be easy, but it will help us improve the relationship in the therapeutic journey. Number 3 is where you agree with them.
All right.
Watch this. Number 4. Are you opposed to scheduling an appointment and making yourself available so we can continue the process? Now, tell me where you argue that.
This is the thing. That should probably be a standard email that we send to all of our court-appointed clients.
This is actually what court-appointed clients are using, at least when we train how to have a collaborative conversation with a co-parent.
Yeah.
That is a standard way we teach them how to talk.
Yeah.
Because number one, it's all collaborative. It's gratitude, deflating the balloon, the value statement.
Yeah.
Right? Which is kind of saying, I want to validate where we are.
Yeah.
Then you have the agreement, because it's not, I'm disagreeing, I'm agreeing. And then the goal.
Absolutely.
And people are more likely to go, sure. No. Can I tell you one of my favorite things? I know we need to finish. One day, this is a little psych trick. I got a call. I had studied psychology, I graduated my psychology degree, and I got a call from a family member, and they said, hey, we're having our grandpa's birthday. We want to do it at Red Lobster. I ain't Red Lobster in a long time.
Right.
We're going to have it at Red Lobster. He loved it. And so, can you call and get us a reservation? I said, sure, I'll do it. So I said, how many? 12. So I call Red Lobster. I'm in my early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I call Red Lobster, and I said, hi, I'd like to make a reservation for 12 at 12 for a birthday party. Lady on the phone says, we don't do reservations.
Okay.
That's all she says. Doesn't offer me anything else. We don't do reservations. I said, okay. I said, well, do you do call-aheads? Can I call ahead, like before, like on our way so we can get on the list, whatever. No, we don't do that either. I mean, she's not giving me anything to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I flip it. And I say, I know that in the restaurant business, right around noon is a major lunch hour and you get a major rush. And out of respect to your servers, I just want to make sure that we don't bombard you guys with 12 people coming in right at the lunch crunch to create a problem for your rotation. So I just wanted to let you know that there will be 12 at 12. And thank you so much for letting me know that there's not reservations. So I just did it real kindly. Just said, hey, we're still coming, basically.
Right.
But I just didn't want it to create a problem for them.
Right.
We show up. I walk up to the hostess and I said, hi, I need a table for 12.
Mm.
And another lady standing right next to her, she says, were you the one that called me and asked about a reservation? I said, yes, I called for a reservation earlier today for 12. She goes, right this way, your table's right over here. I didn't have a reservation.
Yeah.
But I had a reservation.
You had a reservation. You know why? Because you didn't argue with her. You didn't judge her.
I was curious.
You were curious.
Do you do call ahead? The last part, I made it about them.
Yeah.
I wanted to do them a favor. I don't want to show up with 12 people and mess them up.
Right.
And I think she thought that was very kind of you.
I think we're going to have to do a part 2 to this because what you have just done is open up a can of worms.
Uh-oh. Is it really worms? What's in there?
Yeah. You open up a can of something. We'll just put it that way. Because now the other co-parent is, when is somebody going to make it about me?
Well, maybe that's the title of another podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I don't disagree. I think there's so much more. I just want to give people the basics. So let's go over this real quick.
Yep.
Monitor yourself. Okay.
Yep.
Always know where you're coming from.
Yep.
Flirt with your assumptions. Don't marry them.
Yep.
You want to be a responder, not a reactor.
Yep.
To respond
is to be curious.
Is to be curious. To react
is to be judgmental.
Bingo.
Yep.
The method. You want to do gratitude, value statement, the 5 sense language. Seems like, feels like, looks like, sounds like. State where you agree.
Yep.
And then use no-oriented questions. Don't forget your answers are only 3.
Yeah.
Yes, no, and yes if. When do you say no? When it's a what?
Hell no.
When it's a hell no.
Yeah.
When do you say yes?
When it's a hell yes.
Yeah, that's right. You don't need any other factors to be in there. But when you need other factors, we start with yes if.
Gotcha.
If the listeners can take that away from here just to start this process.
Absolutely.
I think that would be amazing.
Awesome. All right.
What do you got, Dr. Robinson? Anything else for me so we can let these listeners go?
I'm good. Why don't you go ahead and close us out?
I'm going to close us out.
And then we'll see you next time.
I just want to say to you listeners, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity and staying with us to listen to this from start to end. There's so many ways. As you can tell, we're very passionate about this, and there's so many ways to do this. We want to give you the quickest and best way to do this so that you can become solution building and solution oriented versus problem solving. We care about you that much. We want to see this work. So if you found this helpful, would you please rate through and review our podcast on whatever platform you're listening from? Your reviews will allow us the opportunity to get to more people and to help more families. And ultimately, our greatest hope is that your children will grow up one day and appreciate you for what you've done for them. So we want to get you the information and we want to help you through this. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
Thank you, Michael.
Of course. Glad to do it. And keep moving forward, everyone.